Why, good day, and welcome to my parlor. I am your humble host, the Crimson Jester, here to alleviate your boredom, if not just for a little while. Today will be what if Izuku was bonded with Toxin? Now, where we last left off, Izuku just got through with a very rough training session with Agent Venom. A certain maniacal psychopath just arrived in Japan. And we have yet to have an update on good old All Might. Let's see if we can progress a little farther, shall we? We cut to the teacher's lounge, where we see Flash Thompson currently ingesting at least what appears to be a bottle of sake. As Aizawa strolls in. Not rolls, strolls. Hmm? What are you doing and why are you doing it here? As Flash bangs his head on the table. I've hit a roadblock. What do you mean? Izuku. What, is he not picking up things? No, he's picking up too many things. Explain. So, you know how we've been trying to get him to detect and try and find us? Yeah. Well, the thing is, we're trying to get Toxin to try and find us, to be able to find and locate that link. Uh-huh. Well, we figured the best way to do that would be to quite literally make it to where he can't see us. Right, I see where you're going. So, we forced him into a high pressure situation with very little time to adjust. And he adjusted! Doom! As he bangs his head on the table again. What do you mean? The idea was to press Toxin into finding that very special link, that bond between the symbiotes and himself. So that way, it can push on it and figure out exactly where we are. Uh-huh. Instead, what happened was Izuku found a way to predict us. Come again? Izuku, boom, found a way, boom, to predict us, boom. He emphasizes repeatedly by slamming his head onto the table. The same attack method would not work twice. In fact, it got to the point to where even similar attack methods wouldn't work. Are you sure they weren't sensing you? Yes, because if they were sensing us, the reaction times would have been faster. Instead, what happened is he was able to take past behaviors, utilize them to predict future behaviors. The kid got used to the invisible fighting style within a day. So that means I have to come up with a brand new lesson plan to force Toxin to utilize its link. Uh-huh. So you're saying the reason I hit a roadblock isn't because my student's too dumb, it's because he's too damn smart. Dumb. Why? Why couldn't he have been like me? It would have been easier. As he takes a swig from this from the bottle again. Damn it, this stuff is just. What? No offense, you guys have some. I mean, it tastes good and all, but it hardly does anything. Mm. Sake isn't like your typical, your typical booze. It hits after the effect. Basically, instead of hitting hard right off the bat, after it settles in your stomach, that's usually when it knocks you on your ass. Yeah, sure, whatever. It's true. You might want to be prepared for a hangover. I unfortunately don't get those. Huh? Can't get drunk. You can't get drunk. Nope. In fact, to get a good buzz going, I have to ingest copious amounts of alcohol. Venom increases the vital signs in the human body. Well, in my body in general. Basically, it also includes the liver. Breaking down and metabolizing it is just second nature. I can't get drunk unless Venom purposely turns off that function, which he rarely does. Well, damn. Aren't you a lucky bastard? Not really. Oh? Yeah, that's not here or there. Anyways, what am I gonna do with this kid? Why not try a less forceful approach? Huh? The kid's obviously timid. Yeah. Have you asked anyone why? Well, no. We're just trying to get him to where, if shit happens, he won't die. If I were you, I'd talk with All Might. Why? According to him, the kid's been through a lot. And I do mean a lot. Oh? Why is that? He's quirkless. Yeah, so? Quirkless aren't really viewed differently in America, are they? I mean, yeah, some of them are seen as we're kind of seen as less fortunate, but other than that, as long as you're able to, pardon me, as long as you're able to do what needs to be done and, carve your own path, you're usually set. I mean, it's America. Oh, yeah, this isn't America. Here, unfortunately, society is based on your quirk. Whether you have a flashy, whether you have villainous, or whether you have none. I can see how he's had disadvantages growing up. I mean, hell, you can look at him and tell he's jumpy. More than likely from getting picked on or even beaten up. The reason he's able to predict your behavior so easily is probably because he's used to being ambushed. Didn't think about that. Right. I'll talk with All Might. Thanks. For a guy who looks and dresses like a hobo and goes around in a giant yellow sleeping bag, you're not half bad. Yeah. And for a guy who seems like the typical American jock with little to no intelligence and asinine behavior, you're not too shabby. As they both start mildly chuckling to one another. As we cut to, well, All Might and Izuku over at Dagobah Beach. As both of them are going through some quirkless sparring and weightlift training well, at the trash site with the garbage. Ow! Oh, man. What's the matter, young Midoriya? My whole body hurts. Oh, I thought Toxin helped you heal faster. He does, but Mr. Flash has been pushing me way too hard. Oh? Yeah. He kept on going invisible and trying to striking me from the corners. It was so weird. I could barely try and keep up. You were able to keep up with an invisible foe? After the third attempt, he laid me on my butt 3 times. And even then, I came close so many others. We kept on having to twist, turn, dodge, and flip. I swear he has more stamina than a horse. Ugh. Well, I think he was doing it to try and help you out. I know. But I don't see what's he trying to help. Well, didn't he say something about him and Toxin and all symbiotes having some sort of link? Oh, yeah. And think about it. If your foe is invisible, but you're able to sense them, wouldn't that kind of help? I guess, but I don't know how I don't know how to access it. Neither does Toxin. Hmm. Well, maybe that's something you should focus on. What do you mean? Here, sit down, my boy. As Izuku goes over to him and they both take a seat on the nice sandy beach, looking off into the ocean. Now, I want you to close your eyes. Close my eyes? Yep. Close your eyes. Okay. Now, try to imagine the ocean right in front of you. Look out upon it. Feel the salt in the air. Feel the breeze running through your hair. Now, imagine yourself on a boat in the middle of that ocean. Okay. As Izuku does this, following along. Now, imagine looking around with a telescope while you're on that boat, trying to look for friend and foe alike. Huh? Go on. Think about it. Imagine it. Try to feel and think upon where they would be at. Deep down, you know where it's at. You too, young Toxin. Think about it. Both of you are the two sides of the same coin. Both one part of the same whole. You're brothers, which means you should be working together. No? As in this mental-like state, Toxin forms around Izuku. He's right. we take things on too separately, brother. Right. We keep on thinking about and trying to increase one of our skills, not trying to increase both of ours. We're not just individuals. We're the same being. We are not just Izuku. We are not just Toxin. We are one. And with that, something clicks. He feels a surge of energy billowing in their chest. Well, Izuku feels a surge of energy bellowing in his chest as it rings out, flowing not only through his body, but through the body of Toxin. As they feel it, they feel the connections with one another, and they begin to sense many, many a new thing. Oh, wait, huh? That's Mr. Flash. As, yes, they have just discovered their link, being able to sense the kind, somewhat parental presence of their teacher all the way back at the school. But they also sense a dark, malevolent presence further out before it suddenly and sharply disappears. A presence that was so dark, so murderous, so eerily happy that it shook both Toxin and Izuku to their core as they break out of their meditative state, panting heavily. Izuku, is everything okay? I'm fine. That was terrifying. What happened, my boy? We felt them. We saw. It's okay. It's okay. Breathe. Breathe, my boy. Breathe. As All Might pats him on the back gently. It's all right. It's all right. I'm here. Nothing will come towards you while I'm around. Believe me. After all, I am All Might. And as long as I'm around, there is never a need to fear, for I am here. Right. Right. You're right. That's it. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Here. Huh? What are you? As well. Toshinori pops open the cooler and brings out several, and I do mean several, snacks. Here we are. What is all of this? Well, my young apprentice, as he starts undoing the wrappers and taking the items out of the bags, it seems as if you forgot I own a few fast food chains. God bless me. No, I never forgot that. Oh, Aha. Yes, I get a pretty decent discount. And I figured we could have some. We would be tired and very hungry afterwards, so I made sure to prepare. um, okay, don't worry. There is no ice in that cooler. It's just there to make sure nothing got onto it while we were here. The other cooler, however, as he pops it open, revealing several carbonated beverages, carbohydrates, proteins, heavy proteins. All Might Special, after all. As well as syrups and sugars. Everything someone with, well, highly draining quirk needs to replenish their bodies. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I have been noticing I've been eating more out of house and home recently. Yes, don't worry. I've been covering the food bill. Huh? Oh, yes, by the way, your mother is one very determined woman. Took me 3 hours of convincing for her to allow me to do that. But, after informing her of the situation and everything else, it was quite easy. Not to mention the sheer fact that she's already staying at UA, might as well let us cover it. Even then, it was still a challenge. Yeah, she always has been stubborn. Indeed. But it's a good trait, as long as it doesn't go overboard. Believe me, I know that one. The price of being overly stubborn is very, very high. As he pats his side. But sometimes it's worth it. You never did tell me. There's no need for you to worry about that. Believe me. Okay. Glad to hear, my boy. Now, would you like to continue training? Or would you prefer to rest up for 30 minutes before you have to do your run? I'd rather train. That's my boy. As after they get done eating, they get ready right back in a combative stance. Meanwhile, we cut to Aldera. It has been about a couple of weeks since Izuku has just suddenly dropped off the map. Most of everyone there is, well, fine with it. But they've noticed a certain blonde bomber has been a lot more quiet recently. A bit more tame, if you will. As we cut to Katsuki Bakugo. As he's sitting in class, looking over the same dumb teachers, teaching the same non-important lessons, he begins to think back to that day Izuku disappeared. The red tendril shooting out of his body, nearly pulping his skull. The sudden agreement, followed by him actually diving out the window. It didn't make sense. Did he have was he just covering his quirk up? Was he hiding it all this time? How could he hide a quirk all this time from me? That lying bastard looking down on me. But if that was the case, why would he jump out the window like that? I mean, yeah, he rolled, but I told him to take a swan dive off the roof. And he just jumps out the window, head first, without a bit of care in the world. What would have happened if he would have died from that? What the hell? Why am I thinking about this? Damn it! Just a stupid nerd. There's no reason to focus on that. As there's a knock on the classroom door. As Bakugo is zoning off, the knock on the door increases as the teacher stands up, goes and opens it just to find a man in a trench coat. Hello there. The name is Detective Tsukachi. I'm here for, well, police investigation. And, how should I put this? I need to talk with you, as well as a Katsuki Bakugo. What? You heard me. This is a, well, official police matter. As of this moment, you, as well as him, are currently under investigation, as well as many other people in this school. I would not recommend trying to resist. It would be most unwise. As Katsuki immediately kind of thinks of one particular green haired boy. What the fuck did Deku do? As, oh yes, technically speaking, Izuku didn't say or do anything. But a certain, well, blonde-haired man who just so happened to have seen Izuku's memories, well, might have been able to arrange a very intense and very thorough investigation into the school, aided and assisted by a very, very demonic albino stoat. Well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Because after 1 week of stockpiling information, many a things can be learned and many of the truths can be uncovered without even having to actually enter the building. As school is shut down for the day and parents are called to come and pick up their brats, Mr. and Mrs. Katsuki, or I should say Mr. and Mrs. Bakugo, considering, that's how it's actually listed. Curse being America and using first names first. Oh well. As the Bakugos enter the police station and sit down in front of Detective Sukachi. Well, there isn't any easy way of saying this. Your son is in a very large amount of trouble. What did my brat do? Madam, it's quite a long list. If I were you, I would get comfortable. Same with you, sir. As Bakugo is a very irritated, but is also keeping quiet because, well, in this situation, making a large outburst isn't going to help. He's at least smart enough to know that. Mr. and Mrs. Katsuki. Ah, god dang it. Too used to that shite. Mr. and Mrs. Bakugo. If I'm being completely honest, if we were to file all the charges of misconduct and every other law that your son has broken over the years, he could be buried under a jail. I'm sorry, what? Okay, what do you mean by that? Unauthorized use of quirks, illegal use of quirks without a license, destruction of private property, destruction of public property, bullying, harassment, assault and battery, and suicide baiting. That last one catches everyone off guard. As Mitsuki Bakugo looks at her brat with disbelieving and completely shocked eyes, not wanting to believe anything that this man is saying, trying and wishing that her son would deny it in some way, shape, or form. Masaru Bakugo is looking at the detective with a very heavy eye, trying to see if this man is telling the truth, trying to see if this man is just setting up his son. And meanwhile, Katsuki is kind of flipping his lid internally. Buried under a jail? All those different crimes? Everything stacked against him? What the hell do they mean? As with that, the door opens and a very small creature begins to climb up Sukachi's arm all the way up onto his shoulder where he takes a seat. Why, hello there. Am I a mouse? Am I a bear? Am I a dog? It doesn't matter. I'm the Dean of UA, Nezu. Dean of UA? Very true. And you, Mr. Katsuki, you have been a very, very bad boy. You have no way my son would do this. There has to be some sort of mistake. Ah, but you see, sir, that is where you are wrong. He is correct. As they bring out the folder, a manila folder that's half an inch thick, filled with double sided papers and documents, listing and detailing every single, well, incident that has occurred from elementary all the way through high school. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Bakugo, the only reason why we haven't arrested and started booking your son is because of a very, very special case. Special case? Why, yes, very special case. A certain person has come to his defense, even though by our standards, he really shouldn't have. Hmm? What do you... Deku, I would appreciate it if you didn't call my future student useless, Mr. Katsuki. Future student? Why, yes. Believe it or not, young Midoriya is quite bright. Brighter than you. In fact, he would have scored much higher scores if it wasn't for the quirkiest teachers at your school, constantly limiting his potential, constantly shoving him down, constantly depriving the world of such a brilliant charge. It seems as if these teachers forgot their place of nurturing young minds and decided to try and play God by focusing on what they deemed to be the brightest of heroes. In fact, if it wasn't for Izuku's testimony, there's no doubt in my mind I could get you tried as an adult and buried underneath Tartarus. As both Masaru and Mitsuki kind of take a sharp gasp at that. What did you do, Katsuki? Look at the folder, Miss Bakugo. It will explain everything in horrifying detail. Go ahead, take the read. We have plenty of time. As the Bakugos look through the folder, see every single incident that has occurred, reading over them time and time again. Mitsuki begins to tear up, and Masaru, well, he's got a blood vessel popping on the side of his head. He's never been so angry, so disappointed. Their son was not only bullying, but downright tormenting their nephew. They thought they were friends. They thought them as close as brothers. And yet, under their own eyes, their son was borderline torturing this poor boy. Mitsuki can't take it and begins to break down, crying and sobbing. Masaru wraps an arm around her, trying to console and comfort her. They didn't even make it halfway through the folder. As Nezu just sits there, eyeballing Katsuki. Masaru is the first one to speak up. What now? Well, that's up to you two. You see, according to young Mr. Midoriya, he wasn't entirely to blame for his actions. It was primarily the school. And to be fair, after examining everything and the connections they could have, I unfortunately agree. Huh? As much as I would love to sit here and blame everything on your son, as much as I would love to bury him under countless piles of red tape and prison walls, it's not what's best. Your son deserves a chance. And that's exactly what he's been asked to be given. Let's just put it this way. If you take this opportunity, you will be allowed to participate in the entrance exams for UA. If, and I do mean if, you pass the written exams and the physical exams, then you may be allowed into our lovely course where we will make sure that you are on immediate probation. Probation? Yes. You will not step 1 foot out of line. You will not threaten any students. You will not breathe inappropriately. You will be kept under strict supervision, and you will not harass anyone. That is if you manage to pass. Are we understood, Mr. Bakugo? Yes. Yes, Mr. Nezu. Dean Nezu. Yes, Dean Nezu. Katsuki says in a very hushed and quieted tone, realizing the gravity of the situation that has befallen him. In the meantime, Mr. Bakugo, Miss Bakugo, you can be allowed to have these documents. These are just a copy, after all. Please, go home, take them, review them. I would ask that you look through them all. See the physical evidence tied to each one. And then decide whether or not, well, what you will do as parents. We do not wish to ruin young Bakugo's life. But there are consequences to his actions. If I were him, I'd just be grateful that young Mr. Midoriya's mentor factored in his feelings upon finding this information out. His mentor? Why, yes. It turns out young Izuku was quite the late bloomer. His quirk was tied to his bloodstream, a mutant type quirk. It required a certain level of control as well as mental prowess to achieve full control over. And even now, he struggles with it. The reason it took so long is quite simply he had to have a certain amount of protein in his body as well as muscle mass, or should I say, proper amount of blood for his body to work with that wouldn't immediately kill him upon using. So Izuku's not quirkless. No. As you may have realized, the old-fashioned toe joint test is outdated and in severe need of overhauling. But that's a point for another time. The real thing that you need to worry about is that you got very, very lucky, young Bakugo. Lucky. His quirk is influenced by his emotion. Intense amounts of overstimulus can cause it to act very abruptly, lashing out at what it perceives to be a threat. If not for the sheer fact that you were the closest thing that he thought of as a friend, you could have very easily have died that day. Both Masaru and Mitsuki tighten up at this. What do you mean? Oh, simple. During the last official day of their high school, after they've followed up with their exams and did their what they want to be things when they get older, your sons decided to stay late after school to torment Izuku. After sharing a few choice words, which I will not go over here, Izuku's quirk activated and launched a red tendril. If it wasn't for his control over the matter, young Mr. Bakugo's head, well, would have either been crushed or ventilated. As both of them, well, think about the matter. One, that they could have lost their son. Two, that they would have lost their son to their nephew. Three, that they couldn't really blame their nephew after hearing everything. And four, that everything that's going on here was just purely overloading them. At this point, Mr. Tsukichi parks up and states this. I will need you both to sign these. Huh? What is this? House arrest forms. House arrest? Yes. In order to keep your son off the permanent records, as well as out of trouble, at least out of anything that would cause him to face felony charges. He has been charged with enough misdemeanor offenses to warrant him with house arrest. I see. What will this all entail? He will finish whatever education he needs online or under strict supervision. He will also be forced to wear this as he brings out a ankle bracelet. What the hell is that? This, Mr. Kotsky, is a quirk suppressant bracelet. Suppressant? Indeed. This will effectively nullify your quirk while you're at home, as well as allowing us to track you. If you try to take it off, it will sound off, you will get a felony charge, and go straight to jail. If you try and utilize your quirk, it will go off, inform us. You'll be giving a warning, and after that, you will go to jail if you violate it again. You will effectively be living the next 9 months quirkless. Something I thought up of as personal punishment. As Kotsky levels a glare at the rat thing. You see, Mr. Bakugo, I do not take kindly to people harassing my students. And make no doubt, Izuku will be going into the hero course. His mind alone, before his quirk activated, could have gotten him there. I've seen his notebooks. They're quite fascinating. Such detailed and thought out plans. Why, if he was a villain, he could have easily killed the top 10 heroes within half a year, more than likely less. And the lesser ones on the listings, well, he could have gotten rid of it virtually any time after. As both Masaru and Mitsuki look shocked at this, blood escaping their face, leaving them more pale and shook. What do you mean by that? Oh, simple. I'm saying I'm glad we got our mitts on him first. Because with the way he was going and the path he was heading down, young Mr. Midoriya could have easily turned to a villain. And if he would have done that, well, I think you would have been on his top of, well, what's the appropriate terminology? Shit list. I believe a lot of the thugs call it. And you are no All Might, Edge Shot, Miriko. You're none of them. At best, you seem to be a half-baked endeavor. I'm sure with the amount of knowledge he had on your quirk in particular, he could have killed you at any time had he gotten the idea to. Huh? Oh yes, there was detailed knowledge on your quirk, as well as several support equipment ideas, names, references. Very, very detailed, including your fighting style. If he really wanted to, he could have ended you. But you were very thorough in destroying his confidence. So now, Mr. Kotsky, you're going to find out what it's like to be quirkless. But unlike Mr. Midoriya, in my opinion, you might be more of a Deku than he ever was. I hope you prove me wrong. Have a good evening, Bakugos. As he jumps off of Tsukuichi's shoulder and not Tsukuichi's shoulder and proceeds to walk out the room as Tsukuichi adjusts and places the restraint on the ankle of Bakugo. And, well, after the parents sign the paperwork, Tsukuichi catches up with the principal and says, "Okay, what was the actual truth?" "Ah, picked up on that, did you? But of course, after all, it is your quirk. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to reveal the true reason on the true method of his quirk activation or ability, considering it's a national secret." "Hmm, national secret?" "Yes, and not even of our nation." "What?" Both of those rang true. "Very much so. But it turns out Mr. Izuku has gotten a hold of something from America. And for now, they seem to be okay with him utilizing it. Well, I shouldn't say from America, more of a complicated series of events has led to him interacting with something highly dangerous and volatile that he seems to have control over." Yet again, all of those ring true. At this point, Tsukachi just goes, "You know what? I don't want to know. I really don't. Every time I get involved with shit with you, it gets weirder and weirder. I'm just going to go back to chasing vigilantes. Have a good day, Mr. Nezu." "Thank you, Detective." As with that, we will end this episode here. I hope you enjoyed. Have a blessed day. And this has been your nice and ever so humble jester, wishing you a nice and safe week.